Jeff regularly offers continuing education seminars in the medical, legal, financial, educational, real estate, human resource, risk management, and insurance professions, as well as employee seminars and training for companies across the country. Jeff best sums up his work and message by saying, "My goal is to help you spot trouble before trouble spots you." And in today's world, that's something that we can all benefit from. So please join with me in offering a very warm Parker County welcome to Jeff McKissick, President of Defense by Design.
All right. I'm going to stay down here. So as we start the program today, I want to take you to a mall, take you to a shopping center, whether it's here locally in Parker County or let's say you even drove into either Ridgemar Mall or South Hewlin Mall. You parked your car, you've gone inside, you're on a mission, male or female. Someone walks up to you, rather authoritative looking, suit and a tie, etc., and they say, "Excuse me, sir, excuse me, ma'am, are you the owner of such and such a car, license plate number so-and-so?" And you realize, well, yes, that's my car. Great. Boom, I show you a police badge. My name's Detective Jeff McKissick. I work for Fort Worth PD, I work for so-and-so Sheriff's Department, I work for mall security. We had a detail on the roof of the mall catching people and doing what we call smash and grabs, just stealing things that they can out of cars. That's why we have a sting operation set up. Sure enough, we caught some young men trying to break into your car. Now we know it's your car, we saw you get out of it. The detail on the roof gave us your physical description, what you're wearing, that's how we're able to find you inside. Here's our problem. They say it's their car. They got locked out and they were just using the coat hanger to break back inside and get the keys. So now in order to formalize the arrest, we actually have to prove it is your car. Do you happen to have your registration insurance on your person? Where do most people keep it? Great. Would you mind following me? I just need to quickly verify your paperwork. We'll take it from there. You can be on your way. I'm not going to ask for a show of hands, but think to yourself, did I just lure you? And if the answer to that is yes, don't feel bad. Ted Bundy used that lure. Henry Lee Lucas used that lure. It's been used over the decades by many, many individuals. In fact, a few years ago in Grand Prairie, it was used by a group doing home invasions. They came up to homes in the night. Residents came up. They flashed a badge, plain clothes. We're working with the DEA. We're undercover. We've had reports some of your neighbors have been selling drugs out of the home. We need to ask you and your spouse some discreet questions without alerting the other neighbors. Guess what people did? Come on in. 3 weeks later, it was used in Atlanta, except they went to the next step. They went to local Army Navy surplus and bought windbreakers that said police on the back of the windbreakers. So now with baseball caps, jackets, and badges, they ran the same scams there for home invasions in Atlanta. My point is, we're all thinking the greatest threat posed to us comes from a gun and knife. I'd like to offer a challenge to you because in my line of work for 30 years, the greatest threat posed to you or your family, your employees, comes not from a gun or knife, but a good story. Back in the late 80s, I and my mentor, who was an investigative reporter and producer for 2020 60 Minutes NBC News, we did this across the country for Nightline, Oprah, 2020, Good Morning America, Today Show, and others. A few years ago, I did this for NBC5 in downtown Dallas. We went from Princeton University to UCLA, shopping malls in between on hidden camera, lured over 200 men and women into cars and vans to show how easy it was to lure a grown adult and get into a car with a total stranger. And it was way easy. All 200 people we set out to lure, we lured. Didn't matter where we were in the country, didn't matter where we were at, how we lured them. We had a couple of lures we worked with, but still the end result was the same. They got in the car. And it was amazing to see this happen because when the cameras came out and the reporters interviewed them and said, "Why did you do it? Why did you go with these people?" To a person, they all basically said the exact same thing. "Oh, I knew I shouldn't have done that. Something told me you guys weren't, I knew this wasn't right." Which told us two things. Number one, their instincts were working, but number two, they weren't listening. Now, how does that factor into business? Because what happens off the clock can affect your performance, if not very presence, on the clock. Over the years, I've been invited in by countless realtor groups to speak to those to talk about property showings and open houses and what they should be doing in safety for logical reasons. You understand why. And yet, when I've done the training, first thing I tell the realtors, I don't care that you're a realtor. I care that you're a human being. And if I teach you only to think in terms of safety when you're doing a property show and open house, but you go to the state fair, you go on vacation, you go to a concert and something happens, you're not going to be in the office Monday selling real estate, are you? So it doesn't matter. I'm very industry agnostic. Yesterday I spoke to over 100 CPAs in Dallas for an annual CPE event that they do for extra credit. Next month, I'm speaking to about 250 of the top CFOs in Dallas for a gathering over there on 9/11, go figure. They're doing a theme on workplace safety, and so I'm their guest speaker for that day. Because violence impacts business, not only in the obvious ways, but in the ripple effects of violence. When we think of stories in the news, and it doesn't take too long going back to remember them, but whether it's Aurora, Colorado, San Bernardino, Boston Marathon, Pulse nightclub, or a myriad of other types of things have happened since, most people, when they watch these stories on the news, just think, how tragic. My thought immediately when I see those stories is, where did all those victims work? Because none of those employees are going to be at work in the next few days, or in the weeks, or maybe ever again. And when I've spoken to HR groups over the years, I've often used the mantra, what happens in the ER affects HR. And what happens at the PD can sometimes affect your PR. Not if one of your people is the victim, but one of your people is the perpetrator of the crime. And that can affect PR as well. So how do we start doing this? How do we even get to where we are? I think a lot of it has to do with, in the way that we worked years ago, we were paid by the media to go into prisons, mental hospitals, and interview criminals. Novel approach. You want to learn from the experts? Go talk to the experts. But when we had a chance to do so, we asked them open-ended questions. Why did you target this person? Why did you target this type of business? What could they have done differently not to be targeted to avoid the crime or mitigate the risks? How did you go about profiling, selecting your victims if they were more individuals rather than businesses? And we just shut up and let them talk. And if you do that to enough times, and typically our meter was at least 1,000 of them at a time, yeah, you're going to get some stories not so believable, but patterns will emerge. And from those patterns, you start to learn truth. And so that's where we were the research team behind a lot of stories that you'd see in the national media. My point is, we learned criminals, in case you haven't figured it out, are actually pretty smart. They are constantly retooling, redefining, refining how they do what they do. The problem is, none of the rest of us are. Unless you have served in military, law enforcement, or security, or unless you've grown up in a family, as I did, of military, law enforcement, or security, my guess is probably no one has talked to you about your safety since 6th grade. Think about it. And even when we did it through talking dogs, puppets, jingles, and coloring books. Yay! And nobody's had any continuing ed since. So when you turn on the news tonight, and you will see stories that happens every night, whatever leads in the media, whatever stories are on tonight, and you look at those, as many people have over the years, and go, I can't believe somebody foolish enough to do that. I can't believe they'd be that naive to fall for that. I can't believe. My response is, I can. Because nobody's taught to them since 6th grade. So while the criminals are becoming more and more innovative, more and more creative, you have the general populace walking around a 6th grade level of security. Since 9/11, we've had a mantra, and I've spoken to conferences across the country. I'm starting to share the stage more and more with Homeland Security, FBI, and the others when we're doing these events. Since 9/11, we've had a mantra across this country in airports and other facilities. If you see something, so tell me, do you know what it is you're looking for? No. Sounds great when you say it. Oh, yeah, if I see something, yeah, okay, got it. If I see something, I'm going to say something. And yet, nobody really knows what it is they're supposed to be looking for. That's a problem. And it's a problem for police as well, because you have a myriad of people calling in constantly going, oh, there's somebody suspicious in my neighborhood. I see this suspicious car. And while I always tell people, listen to your instincts, at the same time, the police have X amount of resources to work with, and they can't be everywhere. So if something you consider to be suspicious, but you can't give some concrete backup to what makes it suspicious, you could be tying up valuable resources chasing something that's really not a risk. That's the problem when you tell people, if you see something, say something, and they don't know how to define what it is they're looking for. When I've been teaching profiling seminars over the years, the one thing that we do, and we always start out, is we talk about the difference between stereotyping and profiling. And if I were to go down the laundry list of all the ways that we stereotype, just some of the highlights. We stereotype by age. So if I were to tell you right now, okay, close your eyes, imagine you've just been attacked in the street. My guess is most of you would pick someone in your mind that was pretty much, your age, maybe about 10 or 20 years younger, depending upon your age, than you. You wouldn't think of an elderly person attacking you. You wouldn't think of a child attacking you. We think in terms of gender. Oh, Jeff, I'm not worried. It's a woman asking me to help take this thing to her car, to get something out of the car. Oh, it's a woman that says she's locked her baby in the car and she needs me to come help get it. And even if you're a woman or male responding to that request or emergency, you don't think of that being a potential threat because it's another woman. That's stereotyping, not profiling. I can show you some women over the years who have been some very dangerous individuals who have done a lot of damage to both women and men. Gender has nothing to do with it. Age has nothing to do with it. Too often we make those judgments because we look at the person in front of us, and based upon our physicality, our gender, what have you, we think, well, Jeff, don't worry about me. If this person tried something, I can handle it. You're making a huge assumption there that you shouldn't be making. And that assumption is they're working alone. I grew up in a fishing town of 1,200 people in the northern panhandle of Florida. I know about lures because I grew up around them. That was vocation in my hometown. People used to say, oh, you want to go fishing? I went, that's work where I come from. That's not a recreation. But point being, I grew up around lures. And the reason a lure, bait, is used in fishing is because the fish is looking at the bait. It's not looking around for the fisherman that threw the bait in the water. You hear what I'm saying? And yes, children have been used to lure people. Elderly people have been used to lure people. Women have been used to lure people. We had an abduction at North Park Mall in Dallas. You think North Park Mall spends money on security? If you've ever been there, you know it. You can't hardly walk around that place without bumping into something. It looks like security with cameras everywhere, golf carts everywhere. So how did a woman get abducted outside of Macy's 2 years ago at North Park Mall in broad daylight? Because a woman approached her in the parking lot, came up to her, oh, honey, I'm lost. I have this man. I'm not from here. Could you tell me where so-and-so is? And while the woman was mentally distracted by the other woman, the first woman's male accomplice, who had just gotten out of prison that day, comes up behind, puts a knife to her throat, and pulls her to a minivan. She managed to escape in Corsicana. But still, her surroundings. Oh, by the way, that's another way we stereotype, based upon where we are. I just saw it in the news the other night, the two young boys that were found dead in a park over in Fort Worth on Saturday night. Anybody catch that story? I have seen and heard this for 30 years, at least 20 years. I have used this as a mantra because we have got to have a paradigm shift where this is concerned. No matter what happens, I don't care if it's the Boston Marathon, those two boys that were murdered over in Fort Worth. Inevitably, when the media and the reporters are interviewing people from the area, somehow they will always find that one person who comes on camera and says something like this: I can't believe something like that happened here. Because where we live is so, what's the word? Safe. And for over 20 years, I've used this as a mantra. There are no such things as safe or unsafe places. There are only safe or unsafe people. Stop paying attention to where you are. Start paying attention to who you're around or who is around you. Because in 30 years, I've never once heard anybody attacked by a lamppost, a park bench, a parked car, a bush, a tree, a lamp, whatever. And yet you would think those are the perpetrators, the way people talk, because they base their safety on their surroundings. It's not paper and plastic you have to be aware of. It's flesh and blood. And again, we have to have this paradigm shift where we're not paying attention so much to where we are. Places are, for the most part, pretty neutral. It's the people that never are neutral. They're on one side of that fence or the other. They're either friend or they're foe. There's very few neutral people in between. But yet, you look at something like that and say, well, Jeff, okay, we want to be a good citizen. We want to be a good Samaritan. Where's the balance? It's found in something, a word that we used to have in our vocabulary. Well, actually, I can think of a phrase we used to have in our vocabulary too. It's called personal responsibility. There's a phrase you don't hear much anymore, but I'll leave that soapbox for another time. Still, the other phrase or word I want to talk about is the word discernment. Learning how to determine friend from foe. Learning how to determine the story that you're being relayed. Is it fact or is it facade? Someone approaches you, male or female, young or old. You're out in a parking lot somewhere. Something's happened. They need your help. There's an emergency. Whatever request. Let me give you 2 simple questions that you can ask yourself to determine, is there the potential of this being something other than what I see it is? 2 questions, and they are easy to remember. Number 1, what is this person asking you to do? Now let me define that. Is it something that goes against the instincts? Just like those 200 people we lured. They all knew something wasn't right. Their instincts were working. They didn't listen. So first thing, what do they ask me to do? Does it go against my instincts? Is your spidey sense tingling? Secondly, is it something that just seems illogical or unusual? In other words, let's say it's a panhandler situation or whatever. Someone walks up to you for whatever request, and you notice in them walking up to you, they pass 2 or 3 other people before asking you the question or for help. Now, you may not ask this out loud, but it's worth asking yourself, what scent am I putting off in the universe that they passed these other people and approached me? Somehow they profile you, and why? Third question, does it call for a rushed response? Because when there's an emergency, and emergencies happen in life, they happen to us, they happen to other people. When there's an emergency, we're not thinking, we're doing what? Reacting. And even worse, we're reacting out of our emotions. Yes, we all want to play Superman and Supergirl in the moment. And yet that can put us in harm's way. There was a young lady in Dallas, in Richardson, actually a couple of years ago. Saturday morning, she was driving down the road, really wasn't anybody else on the road. Early Saturday morning, guy jumps in front of her car in a jogging suit, flags her down. Miss, you got to help me, please, you got to help me. What? Well, somebody, the car before you, they hit my dog, he's over in the ditch, I've got to get him to the vet. Please, can you help me? Without thinking, because it was an emergency, she was reacting, she got out of her car. As soon as she did, knife to her throat, she was being dragged into the bushes. She happened to have some pepper spray in her keychain. She sprayed the guy and she got away. It was on the news that night in several of the local affiliates. I had friends of mine that knew me, lighting me up on all the social media and text, saying, oh, Jeff, did you see Esther? Wasn't it great she had her pepper spray? No. It was lucky she had her pepper spray. What would have been great if she had stayed in her car, called for help, and handled it that way rather than putting herself at risk, knowing that there was, in her own admission, no one else down that road. See, context is what you look at when you're starting to profile situations as well. But still, emergencies rattle us. So what is this person asking you to do? Does it go against the instincts? Does it seem illogical, unusual? And does it call for a rushed response? Second question, where is this person asking you to go? Is it away from where you're at? Is it away from who you're with? Remember a story Natalie Holloway about 10 years ago? Went to Aruba with her entire senior class for senior trip. She didn't come back. Why? Somebody have a gun or knife? Nope. Good-looking young guy named Joran Vandersloot comes up to her during senior trip, nuzzles up to her, builds that rapport, and she willingly walks away with the man who kills her. We're coming up on Labor Day weekend in about a month. Remember the story of Christina Morris that shops at Legacy? We know who killed her. He's now in jail. But we still, in 3 years, have not found her body. Yet most of us who saw the footage that they ran again and again and again, run every year almost upon that anniversary, show her willingly leaving the parking garage the man that we know who killed her. Obviously, he didn't have a gun or knife. He had a good story. The whole idea behind lures, and we learned this from Bundy, Lucas, Gacy, and others who my boss interviewed, but also many others we interviewed, the reason that lures are used rather than force or coercion, because there are no witnesses. If you leave somewhere with me willingly, who's paying attention? Nobody. And even if caught, if you're almost to my car, I'm about to knock you in the head and push you in the trunk, even if you're almost there and somebody catches me and say, hey, what are you doing? Do you know that guy? Or that woman, because predators and victims alike come in both genders. Do you know that person? And you stop and you realize, oh gosh, I don't know you. What am I doing? I still have committed no crime because you were willingly going with me, even if you catch me in the act, until I've committed the crime. So, where are they asking you to go? Away from where you're at, away from who you're with, and is it somewhere that if you go there, nobody's going to see or hear what happens next? There was a man caught in the Atlanta airport about 8 years ago. He had lured 25 men, 5 of them to their deaths over 3 states before the police finally caught him about to flee the country. How do you lure 25 men? He walked up in parking lots and parking garages and simply said, hey, my battery's died, I got the cables, I need a jump. Can you help me? Now, apply 2 questions. What is he asking me to do? Does it go against my instincts? No, because my battery's died on me before. Does it seem illogical, unusual? No, because again, my battery's died on me before. Is it calling for a rushed response? No, he's pretty calm about it. Question 1, pass. But there's question number 2. Where's he asking me to go? Away from where I'm at? Yes. Away from who I'm with? Yes. Somewhere no one's going to see or hear what happens to me. In his case, yes. In every one of the 25 cases, he parked his car behind the building, behind a big dumpster, behind the big column in the parking garage where he could isolate his victims from view. They weren't robberies, they weren't muggings. He just wanted to kill people. So when these guys pulled their cars, trucks, ran, pulled out a knife and just started stabbing them. That was it. Just want to kill people. 2 simple questions that you can apply to better determine friend from foe, fact from facade. Because here's the thing, I don't want you to live in a world of fear and paranoia because I don't. But I want to empower you to be good citizens and good Samaritans in the world we live in. Because to just simply walk around there and just kind of take risk and chance on a constant basis is not going to do you well in life. And not just for the kinds of people we're talking about with violence, also in the areas of fiscal exploitation. I did a seminar 2 months ago for the Texas Sci CPAs on luring your money, talking about the Bernie Madoffs of the world. Forget the people that send you the email scams and the phone scams. I'm going for big dollars. I came off the platform after speaking to about 350 CPAs and CFOs at that conference, and a lady comes up to me. She said, please keep doing what you're doing. My father just committed suicide 3 weeks ago because of what you just talked about. So what happened? She said he was a mall walker at North Park. He was retired. My mom passed away several years ago. He was lonely. He started walking in the mall to make those connections. A lady sidled up to him. She started developing that relationship. She got her hooks into him, took my dad for $400,000. My dad was so embarrassed. He got taken. She took off, broke his heart. He killed himself 3 weeks ago. We went to the police. They said, oh, we know exactly who you're talking about, but we can't do anything because your dad isn't the first one. He won't be the last one, but every man has given her the money. So there's not a doggone thing we can do to put her in jail for it. So she'll go do it with someone else. There's very little in my mind that separates Ted Bundy from Bernie Madoff. One took people's lives, the other one took their life savings, but neither one of them used a gun or a knife. They both used the power of a good story. So again, what happens off the clock affects people on the clock. And the more that we can do to mitigate those risks, the better not only our communities are going to be, but the safer our business is going to be. I'm all for investing in cameras, alarms, access control. I'm all for that. But you have to have equally smart people using smart technology. And again, most of the population is walking around there at the 6th grade level of safety and security. So we need some major upgrades to bring people where they need to be to complement the technology we have. Because simple fact is, if you have all those accoutrements and your people let the wrong people in, invite the wrong people in, or assume this person, oh, I thought they belonged here, then none of those various security technologies really make any difference, do they? They've all been negated. So I've got a few minutes here at the end just to answer some quick questions, and I'll close with 1 or 2 comments, but anything immediately come to mind before we wrap up today? Yes, sir, and I'll repeat the question.
Of the 200 people that you got to lure, how many people said no?
Out of the 200 people we lured, how many said no? Not one. Not one.
You didn't ask anybody that said no?
No. One guy was a 34-year-old sailor in Jacksonville, Florida, whose dad was chief of police in Jacksonville, Florida, and he got in the van with a fake badge. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It surprised us. It really did. But the lures were so powerful. I mean, we saw college students, 1 girl, 2 girls at the same time at Princeton University got in the van. We asked them before they got in the van, what were your SAT scores? One said 1340, the other said 1290. They hopped to the van. We handed them a business card, said we were modeling agents. I mean, it was amazing. We had 13 lures to choose from. Those are just 2 examples. But it was really, really easy. Anyone else? Yes, sir, in the back.
Someone sees someone that they don't believe is safe or they're going to call the police. Have you ever had anybody that they accuse the person and then all of a sudden the person that's being accused sues them?
No, not to my knowledge. I mean, it's one of those things where, again, you have to apply some context. If somebody walks up to you and they pretend to be an authority figure, let's say, they show you a badge. Okay, right away, I'm assuming they are who they say they are, but I'm still going to add some discernment to it. Say, officer, hey, thank you for catching these guys about breaking my car, but the fact is, you're not in a uniform with any kind of jurisdiction on it. I don't see a marked car with any kind of jurisdiction on it. I just want to use my phone to call 911 real quick. Make sure you are who you say you are. We'll be on our way. Because the real police know exactly why you're asking to make that phone call. If anything, you get a pat on the back. If they aren't the real deal, are they going to stick around while you're making the phone call? They're out there. You just called their bluff. And by the way, even service contractors, there have been numerous stories about this in local media. People pretending to be cable people, Encore Energy, TXU. This is why now Time Warner and Milestone Electric, others, when they send you and text you a message that we're coming to your home, they send you the time and they send you what? Picture. So even when you set an appointment and someone shows up at your door, just don't take their business card for granted, and even in your business. Find out, call the people, hey, you have so-and-so working for you? Oh, by the way, what do they look like? Because I can go, and I've done it before, go to Panera Bread, I pull out a card, okay, I'm going to be this person today. Come on, media, let's go knock on some doors and see how many people let me in, using someone else's identity and card. Simple as that. One last question. Somebody up here?
I was just going to say that when, like for me, if I was in that situation at the mall or even if getting pulled over, if something doesn't feel right and you have that sixth sense, what are my rights to...
Okay. We should say, if you have a question, what are your rights to really question? Well, first of all, if they're placing you under arrest, and most people don't realize this, you have a right to ask for a uniformed officer in a marked police car if they're placing you under arrest. That is a right that you have. But to me, it's all about the attitude. That's why when I work with high school kids, oh, you can imagine, some of them, you're teenagers, you know what I'm talking about. I was like, do not cop an attitude with a cop. Say, officer, you know, I totally respect your authority. I hear what you're saying here, but you're not in a uniform. You're not. This guy came to my school. This guy, my mom and dad put me in front. He told me this sometimes uses lures. Even though I did something wrong, I just want to make sure you are who you say you are before I get in your car. They get it. So again, it's applying those rules of discernment. But that only comes through awareness. For those interested, I have a little book. It'll be available in the back. It's called Power Proverbs for Personal Defense.
I'm sorry, I know you said one more question, but I'm a rule breaker.
Well, and here's the answer to the question. I have this book in the back. That's about our kids. Why not tell our kids? No, seriously. I wrote this book several years ago, and I took the 10 most popular sayings that everyone's parents, grandparents, great-grandparents over the years. What you don't know can hurt you. Better be safe than sorry. Ounce prevention worth a pound of cure. Do unto others, you have others do unto you. Can't judge a book by its cover. You know every chapter in this book. What does 6 to 8 pages per chapter talk about? What is the proverb? How is it applied? Stories of people did it right and did it wrong, and then bullet points at the end of each chapter saying how you apply this as a strategy to your safety or your kids' safety. This is great talking points where you have kids, teenagers, especially if they're about to go off to college, male or female, by the way. But anyway, those are going to be available in the back for $10. But also, we've talked to the chamber, so there may be some return visits here to maybe do some other types of educational opportunities. If you're interested, talk to the chamber leadership about maybe engaging in some of those activities. Other than that, best way you can say thank you to me, just be safe out there. There's a lot of things going on, but you know what? We can all handle it if we just apply some basic principles of awareness and discernment. Thank you very much.